Hey, this is Josh, developer of One More Run. Figured it's long overdue for one of these behind-the-scenes devlogs. So let's take a look at what I've been working on for the last week. This one is all about map collision, map loading. One of those less flashy things, but I think kind of one of those fundamental items that needs to be dialed in at some point in the game's development, and this was a good week to knock that out. So we're kind of taking a step back from the things that are exciting and flashy, but at the same time, kind of interesting from a game design perspective. For anyone who's been playing the game a lot, and especially if they've been playing since the new map release, World Collision has been one of those neglected items in One More Run. When I first started on One More Run, we were on the 16 by 16 tiled map, and it worked well enough for the map loader to just detect, okay, this is a rock tile, okay, this is a water tile. And it was good enough. I knew that wouldn't really last us, but it did the job. The challenge there is when we scaled out to the 48 by 48 map, that then really compounded the offset issues when we're taking an entire tile and treating that as a collision object. Suddenly, what was just a very slight offset that we could account for in code became this massive invisible wall, and it makes the game not feel great to play when you start hitting these invisible walls anytime you go nearby a rock. So I knew shortly after getting the 48 by 48 tiled map in that it was time to go ahead and get a proper collision layer baked in. At the same time, the map loader itself was really showing signs of age. So I figured, okay, let's go ahead and completely rebuild that at the same time and get it built into a modular design that I can easily expand on with new features, because we do have a lot of things, especially now that Ram is our dedicated map designer, which huzzah for him. He started out just enjoying the game, but now he's full on in this as a map designer. So that's been really cool to see. Anyways, tangent. Yeah, so we've got a lot of things coming with how the game interacts with the player's choices and how the map changes as the player's choices unfold. And I knew, okay, in order to facilitate that, we need a much more robust map loader. So let's take a look a little bit at what that looks like. This is actually in a new preview tool that was built specifically, well, initially just for me to see if the map loader was even working. Gradually, though, we identified, hey, this is a really cool kind of internal tool because it allows Ram to iterate as he's making changes to the map. He can just quickly load up the map in engine and see, what looks good, what doesn't look good, what placement is off, etc. So talking back on that collision layer, we have that collision layer added in now. And you can see here what we're doing is this is actually a 12 by 12 collision layer on the 48 by 48 tiled map. So it's a one quarter scale. That gives us much better precision. So when we get down to, let's get down to like a rock here. So this rock right here would normally be like 3 to 4 times that in terms of collision size, and it would be then centered around the rock. And that's where that terrible feel comes in. But now we've got a very precise 12 by 12 collision grid that overlays the 48 by 48 tiled map. So pretty cool. And again, it's not super exciting, but it's allowing us to do much more complex map designs moving forward without having to dance around this strange collision problem. And already, as an example of that, we now have a barrier for a shoreline. So when you're loading into shoreline, that's kind of like the game's tutorial zone. And for anyone who's been following the game's development, that would make sense then that it's probably going to become a proper tutorial zone down the road. But we'll have to wait and see if that comes to fruition. You know how I am about tutorials. I have no idea what I'm doing with tutorials until they're done. But what we're doing here is now you've got these little choke points, and I think these choke points might even be too small in this current map, but I'm going to wait and see what feedback is like. But we've got choke points now into shoreline and then into the rest of the map as a whole. So it's going to kind of give a little bit of that open world feel where you start out exploring in a smaller, more contained area, and then once you do start to get out and take some risks and see what's out there in the world, it really opens up and feels expansive. So I think that's kind of a fun approach to it. Also, while we're in here, in case anyone's curious, we've got zones. In case anyone's curious, let's look at entities. This is just how many entities the Hintervale Clearing map has thus far, and this is only going to get larger. So if anyone was curious what the procedural elements look like, this is how that's occurring. We've got all these different map entities when we first build the map in LDTK, and then the map loader then selects from those entity locations. Okay, does this need to be a village? Yes or no, and then it'll roll the dice and see if it becomes a village. So that's how you get semi-random placement on the map, even though it's a handcrafted map. So yeah, again, it's not major release content. It's not like it's a new boss, not like it's 10 new affixes or anything like that. So I'm not going to iterate the version on this. This is just going to be 1.30 C. But behind the scenes, pretty cool stuff. Kind of thing that figured at least is worth a little devlog. So yeah, thanks for following the game's development. If you're interested in one more run, give it a try. I'll put a link in the description for the demo.